David Allan Coe was never meant to be ordinary. In a world where country music often followed polished rules and predictable paths, Coe chose chaos, rebellion, and raw truth. From spending years behind prison bars to becoming one of the most controversial voices in American music.
Looking back on his life, what stands out most is the complexity. Coe was a man of contradictions, a former inmate who became a respected musician, a controversial figure who maintained a fiercely loyal fan base, an artist whose flaws were as visible as his talents. But perhaps that is precisely what made him so compelling. He was not manufactured or curated, he was real. In today's world, where image and branding often overshadow authenticity, Coe represents something increasingly rare. He did not shape himself to fit expectations. He did not soften his edges to appeal to a broader audience. Instead, he remained unapologetically himself, even when it came at a cost. His passing invites reflection, not just on his music, but on what it means to be an artist. Is art meant to comfort or to challenge? Should it align with social norms or push against them? Coe's career suggests that art can, and perhaps should, do both. It can provoke, disturb, and spark conversation, while still resonating deeply with those who connect with its honesty. It is also worth noting that Coe's influence extends beyond his own catalog of songs. He played a role in opening doors for other artists who did not fit the traditional mold. By refusing to conform, he made it easier for future generations to embrace individuality in their own work. In that sense, his impact is not just historical, it is ongoing. Of course, acknowledging his legacy does not mean ignoring the controversies. They are part of the story, and they shape how he will be remembered. But they do not erase the contributions he made to music. Instead, they add layers to a legacy that is anything but simple. As the music world reflects on David Allan Coe's life, what remains is a body of work that refuses to be forgotten. His songs continue to resonate because they are rooted in truth. Messy, imperfect, and deeply human truth. In the end, perhaps, that is what defines him most. Not perfection, not approval, but authenticity. He lived on his own terms, created on his own terms, and left behind a legacy that cannot be easily categorized or dismissed. David Allan Coe may be gone, but the spirit he represented, the refusal to conform, the courage to speak honestly, and the willingness to stand apart, continues to echo. And in that echo, his voice still lives on. The passing of David Allan Coe does not simply mark the end of a life. It signals the closing of a deeply unconventional and unforgettable chapter in the history of American country music. It is a chapter filled with contradictions, controversy, raw honesty, and an unfiltered spirit that refused to be tamed. David Allan Coe was never the polished, industry-approved face of Nashville. He did not fit neatly into the expectations of mainstream country music, nor did he try to. Instead, he stood as a defining figure of the outlaw country movement, a genre that rejected commercial constraints and embraced artistic freedom at all costs. In many ways, Coe didn't just belong to that movement, he embodied it. Born into hardship, Coe's life was marked early on by struggle and instability. His time in prison became one of the most defining influences on his music. While many artists might shy away from such a past, Coe leaned into it. He transformed his experiences into stories, raw, uncomfortable, and undeniably real. There was no attempt to sanitize his narrative. He told it exactly as it was, and that brutal honesty became the foundation of his artistic identity. Coe's music was never just about melody, it was about storytelling. His songs carried the weight of lived experience, often reflecting themes of rebellion, loneliness, regret, and the relentless pursuit of freedom. Tracks like "You Never Even Called Me by My Name" went beyond entertainment. They became cultural touchstones, capturing the voice of those who felt unseen, unheard, or out of place in a rapidly changing world. But that same honesty also came with consequences. Coe's career was often overshadowed by controversy. Some of his lyrics were criticized as offensive or inappropriate, leading to heated debates about where the line between artistic freedom and social responsibility should be drawn. These controversies complicated his public image, making him both admired and criticized, sometimes simultaneously. Yet this raises an important question. How should we judge an artist like Allan Coe? Is it fair to focus solely on the controversies, or should we weigh them against the cultural and artistic impact he made? The answer is not simple. Coe's legacy exists in that gray area where brilliance and controversy coexist. What cannot be denied, however, is his influence. Coe helped shape the outlaw country genre into something more than just a musical style. It became a philosophy. It stood for independence, for resistance against conformity, and for the right of artists to tell their truth, no matter how uncomfortable that truth might be.